We're examining the concept of the epidemiological transition this week. 100 years ago, death rates were significantly higher and early death was a common occurrence. Most people died from communicable diseases, as we mentioned before, such as smallpox, plague, influenza, and various infections. These diseases spread rapidly and had devastating effects on populations. You can see the epidemiological transition as a rectangularization of age-specific death rates, or ASDR. This term refers to the shift from high mortality rates at younger ages to lower mortality rates and a more rectangular survival curve. This indicates improved health and longevity over time. In pre-modern times, life expectancy was between 20 and 30 years, and half the population died before reaching the age of 5, and only 1 in 10 individuals lived to be over 65. Major causes of death included infanticide, geronticide, which is killing old people, and starvation. Interestingly, the advent of agriculture likely increased both birth and death rates. During the Roman era, life expectancy was around 25. By the Middle Ages, it had risen to over 30. However, the Columbian exchange of diseases significantly reduced life expectancy in Latin America. The end of the plague marked the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, which saw a rise in life expectancy. During this period, the number of deaths among people over 65 equaled those of children under 5. Improvements in diet and hygiene played a crucial role in increasing life expectancy. From World War II to the present, developed countries have seen a significant decline in mortality rates. This trend has also been adopted by undeveloped countries, leading to a global improvement in life expectancy. Your first quiz question is, which of the following statements is true about mortality trends from pre-modern era to the present? And the answer is, by the Middle Ages, life expectancy had risen to over 30 years. But what does it mean that life expectancy improves? First, we're looking at life expectancy of women and the number of the percentage who've survived age 1, 5, 25, and 65. And the other thing we're looking at is the number of births required for ZPG, or zero population growth. In the pre-modern time, because so many people died, they would have to have a lot higher births in order to maintain the average number of people who lived. In fact, in the pre-modern world, it was between 6.1 and 3.3. However, as we go to life expectancies from the 20s to over 60, which is past the age at which women typically are able to reproduce, that means that our way, the replacement value, or the way to keep zero population growth dropped to 2.1. Basically, 2 parents, 2 children. The 0.1 accounts for the small amount of death that still does occur in children. The key factor in reducing mortality rates is the improvement in infant mortality. If you save the babies, that you take out a whole lot less zeros into the average. Access to better nutrition and clean water has played a crucial role in lowering mortality rates as well. Proper nutrition strengthens the immune system, while clean water reduces the spread of waterborne diseases. Surprisingly, education and social infrastructure improvements have also contributed significantly to lower mortality rates. Educated populations are more likely to adopt healthier lifestyles and seek medical care when needed. Social infrastructure, such as healthcare facilities and sanitation systems, support overall public health. It is clear that elevating the status of women has had a profound impact on mortality rates. When women have access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities, they can make informed decisions about their health and the health of their families. Some countries, despite being economically poor, have achieved higher than expected life expectancy, such as Sri Lanka, Costa Rica, and the state of Kerala in India. These regions have invested in healthcare, education, and social services, leading to better health outcomes. Conversely, Some wealthier countries have lower than expected life expectancy. Examples include Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Oman. Factors such as lifestyle, diseases, inequality, and healthcare access disparities can contribute to this phenomenon. These next two slides are talking about life expectancy. This is life expectancy in 2022. This next slide is from your book, and it is quite a bit older. It is from 2005. However, there's still considerable regional variability in life expectancy in the world. Notice Sub-Sahara. It has extremely large range of life expectancies from 33 to 76. But most people die around 50. You can see that in great contrast to North America, where most people die between 75 and 81, with the majority of them dying around 77. I have asked you, and you have thought about what is the future of life expectancies? This is from a paper that was published in 2002, and it's about children being born in 1984. And look at these different projections. They can range from 71 years old to 102 years old based on the change of how long people will live. Mortality is differential based on many things, including occupation, income and education, race and ethnicity status, and marital status. Laborers in America have a 19% higher death rate, where professionals have a 20% lower death rate. Basically, the higher your salary, the lower your death rate. This is interesting because in socialist economies, they have the same results, which refutes many of Marx's ideals. This chart is an excerpt from the Census of Fatal Occupational Injuries from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from 2023. The link is included in the PowerPoint, and you can read the entire report. However, you'll notice that transportation and warehousing has absolutely the highest number of deaths, and not surprisingly, it's about transportation accidents. You will also see that fall slips and trips are particularly dangerous, especially for construction workers. And violent acts, however, are contributing factors through all of the different types of work that they have, as well as exposure to harmful substances and environments and contact incidents. Research consistently shows that higher income is associated with lower death rates. It's likely largely due to better access to health care, healthier living conditions, and improved overall well-being. Theoretically, a better education allows individuals to avoid dangerous or high-risk situations. Educated individuals are more likely to make informed decisions about their health and safety, reducing the exposure to potential hazards. Lower death rates among higher income individuals are primarily achieved through fewer accidental deaths rather than a reduction in degenerative diseases. This highlights the importance of safety measures and preventative care in reducing mortality rates. In most of the world's countries, ethnic minorities have higher death rates than majorities. This disparity is often due to discrimination, which leads to lower socioeconomic status and limited access to health care and other resources. In the U.S., African Americans had a life expectancy that was 16.7 years less than their white counterparts in 1900. 98 years later, this gap narrowed to 9.1 years, and by 2022, it had further reduced to 6 years. These improvements reflect progress in addressing some of the socioeconomic and healthcare disparities, but I would say significant gaps still remain. Understanding these disparities is crucial for developing policies and interventions aimed at achieving health equity. Based on the information provided about the life expectancy gap between African Americans and whites from 1900 to 2022, first discuss the trend or trends observed, and second, propose one reason this gap exists and support your proposal with at minimum one argument. This table, also from the Weeks book, was first pre-pandemic, and life expectancy is projected to increase for all groups over time. This aligns with the idea that advancements in health, care, nutrition, and social infrastructure have contributed to longer lives, and women are projected to continue living longer than men. This supports the point that higher status and better health care access for women contribute to improved life expectancy. And note here the American Indian and Alaskan Native, AIAN, and Asian Pacific Islander. Unfortunately, the American Indian and Alaskan Native almost always has the worst outcomes. Married people live longer than non-married people. Hey, maybe it just seems longer. No joking, these are the two explanations that are most commonly referred to. Explanation 1 is called a selective. Sickly people are less, and if they look sickly, they're less likely to get married. Explanation number 2 is that it's protective. Marriage is good for you. Marriage effect is bigger for men than women. Married men have much lower suicide rates than non-married men. Married women have higher income than unmarried women. Socioeconomically, this is confounding. Women generally live longer than men, and this life expectancy gap has changed over time. In 1900, the gap was about 2 years. By 1975, it had widened to 7.8 years, and by 2000 had narrowed slightly to 5.7 years. This life expectancy differential is almost universal. Women are likely biologically superior in terms of longevity, perhaps because they have 2 chromosomes which provide a genetic advantage, and higher levels of estrogen, which offers protective effects against heart disease. The gap is smaller or non-existent in countries with low status of women, particularly those that practice gender-based discrimination, such as killing or aborting baby girls. This highlights the impact of cultural and social factors on life expectancy. In my lifetime, until about 30 years ago, pregnancy and childbirth were still the leading causes of death for young women in North America. This highlights the significant risks associated with maternal health during that period. Even today, nearly 300,000 women die every year from pregnancy and childbirth-related causes worldwide. This staggering number underscores the ongoing challenges in maternal health. Maternal mortality remains a critical issue and generally corresponds with levels of economic development. Countries with higher economic development trends tend to have lower maternal mortality rates due to better access to healthcare, improved nutrition, and enhanced social infrastructure. You can see by this chart that Africa has made the most gains in protecting maternal mortality. Your final quiz question is also multiple choice. Which of the following statements about sex differentials in mortality is true based on the previously provided information? The life expectancy gap between men and women was largest in 1975, which happens to be the year I was born. This last finding should be no surprise, but it does have surprising consequences. The older you get, the more likely you are to die. This is a fundamental aspect of human mortality. As life expectancy increases and more people survive to older ages, we observe a phenomenon known as rectangularization of the survival curve. This term describes how the survival curve becomes more rectangular in shape, indicating that a larger proportion of the population is living to older ages before experiencing a sharp increase in mortality, sometimes called mortality compression. This rectangularization reflects improvements, again, of healthcare, nutrition, and living conditions, which allows more people to live longer, healthier lives.